She has a website and a podcast. So we're super thankful to have you, Maureen. You've got a background in critical care, and she just loves helping students. And we're super lucky to have her today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Chelsea. This is exciting.
It is exciting. So we've just recently all had to transition to this online platform, and so many of us are like, bah, what the heck? When did you realize that you had a passion for educating fellow nursing students and helping them along?
I would have to say that actually started when I was in nursing school itself. I was very keen on helping my fellow students once we got into the program and we saw how challenging and intense it was. And it simply started when I was sharing things like study guides. I would record myself reading my notes, and that is what actually planted the seed for the podcast later. So it really started then and just kind of grew organically, and now here we are.
That's awesome. Well, I know that you do just that, help tons of nurses and nursing students. How did what you do prior, or why don't you tell us a little bit about what you did prior, and then how do you feel like that shaped you into what you're doing now and prepared you for education?
I definitely feel like my prior life definitely prepared me because I worked in advertising. Oh, okay. I was a writer for advertising agencies. I did freelance writing. And as a copywriter, my job basically was to take mountains of information that my clients would provide me. And I would have to learn about topics from ground zero, things that I knew nothing about, and then take all this information and distill it down into the most succinct, most important information that needed to be conveyed. So I got really good at doing that. And that basically is how I structure my teaching now. I take this vast amounts of information and distill it down to what students really need to know. And I really feel like that is the key behind the teaching that I do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have your book here, and this is not promotional at all. Maureen did not pay me to read her book.
No, I didn't even know you bought it. I would have bought one.
So actually, one of my group members was advising other students to get this book. And so I thought, I love learning. And I want to know what this lady has to tell fellow nursing students. So I got it. And it's so insightful. And I love it because when our students in the Tri-Bar Nursing group ask questions, I get to reference your book and say, hey, get the Thriving Nursing School book, and it has so many answers for what you're looking for. Anyway, I think every pre-nursing and nursing student should read it, but can the concepts and ideas be applied directly to this online educational platform? Is there anything that you would add or highlight for students to really hone in on this idea?
Yeah, okay. So definitely with distance learning, we've all had to shift a bit, definitely our mindset and the way we approach things. So some of the core things in the book that definitely apply across the board, and I think apply even more now, is the emphasis that I place on you have to be very organized with yourself. You have to manage your time exceedingly well and prioritize like a champ, or you're never going to get everything done. There was a student in my Facebook group the other day who was just about to pull her hair out, it seemed like, because she had multiple things all due, and they all would take at least an hour. And she's like, I don't know how I'm going to get any of this done. So, just going back to that concept of being super organized and meticulous, the things that I think we have to increase our attention to with this learning environment is the discipline, because I don't know about you, but I'm way more disciplined if I have to show up and be somewhere versus if I'm kind of left on my own. So having that discipline and that self-motivation, I think, is really key. And then the other thing is being really resourceful. Another thing that I'm noticing students say, and it just breaks my heart, is that they're feeling like they're teaching themselves, especially the first semester, the newer students. And if that's the case, I talk in the book about seeking out lots of different resources when you're learning something. Go to YouTube, go here, go there, find different teachers to learn from, because people are going to explain things in a different way. And sometimes you have to hear it explained 5 different ways before you get it. So being really resourceful in that way and being that advocate for your own education, I think those are the things that would have to be a little more dialed up right now.
I agree. And, funny that you mentioned that, because I really was wondering, in your book, I was thumbing through some of the things that I felt like maybe we could hone in on during our time together today. And you talk about embracing all learning styles.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many of us are freaking out right now because we say, but I'm a hands-on learner. Well, no. Right now you're a visual learner because
and you're a reader.
And you're a reader, right? So what do you have to say to those students that say, but I learn best hands-on, and now that's taken away from me and I don't know what to do? How do you encourage them? Or what do you say?
Yeah. So to that student, there's a couple of different things that you can do. And I'm a very hands-on learner myself. I have to watch somebody do it, and then I have to actually do it, or it's never gonna click. Right. So I saw a really cute photo on, I don't know if it was, I think it was Instagram the other day, and it was just a picture of this girl's teddy bear, her childhood teddy bear. And what she had written was that she was doing physical assessment on her teddy bear and used that. So I would say if you have props around the house that you can use those. Somebody else the other day in the Facebook group was saying they were getting ready to be checked off on their catheterization skills, and they had to come up with a model on their own. So you should have seen some of the ideas we threw out there. But people had great ideas for how she could practice and still get that hands-on experience. So I would say use what you have. And then also, if you watch videos of other people, let's say you're trying to learn how to start an IV, for instance, I would say watch videos, multiple different people, different angles of people doing this actual skill. And then, I don't know, I'm probably going to date myself, but if you guys remember that movie, it was such a goofy movie, Cool Runnings, with John Candy and the Jamaican bobsled team. So these guys were in Jamaica and they didn't have bobsledding to practice. So one of the scenes that always stuck with me was how they would all get in the bathtub together as though they were in a bobsled, and they would do the exact movements. So they got that muscle memory of going through the bobsled course. So let's say you want to practice starting IVs, but you've never done it. You haven't been to the lab to do it. But let's say you're watching a video and you've got a partner in the house that you can play with. Practice with your hands, like get your hands involved, find the veins, and then mimic doing all the things, prepping the skin, getting the catheter. I mean, you might feel silly like you're practicing to be a mime, but I promise even doing those movements will get the muscle memory going. And then when you go to lab, you're going to be way ahead. You're going to be ready to really take advantage of that time.
Absolutely. Someone tuning in asks, is this with Fundamentals of Nursing?
Fundamentals is the course where you're going to be learning all of that hands-on type of stuff. And I really think that's where the students are struggling, especially because they are not even going to clinical to put this stuff into practice. So, getting those videos and practicing at home with whatever is available.
Yeah. And, a lot of nurses or nursing students that have had that opportunity and that taste of clinical, I feel like maybe even more distraught that they're missing on their next semester of clinical. Yeah. And I just want to take this time to say, like, no matter what clinical you're missing, you're still going to be an amazing nurse. Don't let this define you as the fact that you missed your peds clinical or your OB clinical or whatever it is. You're still going to get good experience, and whatever path you choose to go on, you're still going to be an amazing nurse. What tips do you have? Sorry, I actually missed a question. What are the key components to making this transition of online education successful? Do you have a few action items that we can put on under our belt?
I was thinking about this a lot, and I like to put things into frameworks and systems because that keeps me really organized. So I kind of came up with, I think, like a 7-point framework for thriving in distance education. So I'll just go through the 7 points real quick if we have time for that, Chelsea. Okay. So, the very first thing is organization. So being absolutely super uber organized with your time and how you get things done. And that means, to me, that means writing things down in a planner. I know not everybody's a write things down kind of person. A digital calendar works fine. Making lists is fine, but you have to organize yourself or you will be sunk, absolutely sunk. So that's the first thing. Be as organized for this as you would be if you had to drive across town and go sit in a class. The second part would be, which I think is really key, is that separation component. And what I mean by that is, when you're in online school or you work from home, like many of us do, there's a real risk of blending all areas of your life together so that you never feel like you're not studying and you never feel like you're not working. And I would just, to say to that, I would say, if you can set aside a specific place in your home where it's only for schoolwork, not your bed where you've got your stuff spread out all over, but if you can set aside, a corner of the dining room table or whatever, have that separation so that when you're in that space, it's in your mind, it's game on and you're focused. I think that's very key. And then, what's that?
I said, yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. And then concentration is probably the one where I get sunk the most, is because shiny objects get me every single time. So doing what you need to do to take ownership of the fact that you can't be getting distracted by your, social media accounts or your email and all the things going on. Maybe you live in a home with 6 other people and it's chaotic and noisy. Invest in some noise canceling headphones if you need to. Wear earplugs. Do whatever it is so that you can fully concentrate, because learning in this environment for a lot of people is going to take a bit more effort. You're going to be burning a lot more calories mentally to learn the material because it's not as engaged as sitting in a class and having the instructor there. I would say preparing for exams as though you were going and sitting in the computer lab and taking an exam, even an open book exam. So my advanced pharmacology course for my master's program, all open book, you guys, hardest class I've ever had in my life. And that was with complete open book exams. So if I hadn't studied and prepared, there's no way I would have passed those exams. So just because your professors may let you take exams open book, and some don't, some still proctor, I want you guys to study for your exams and your skills checkoffs as though you were going to, the testing facility as well. And that'll help you learning as well if you're preparing to that degree. And then the last few things are staying motivated. So set goals for yourself each and every week. A lot of students are running out of gas and not feeling motivated. Think about your why. Like, why are you doing this? Because you didn't just show up in nursing school. You worked your tail off to get there. So you have a why. So, put it on a Post-it note and stick it on your computer or something. Keep that motivation going. And then
that's the one thing that I heard the most this past week was I don't have any motivation.
Right. No, it's so hard. I think the last 2 items, socializing and rejuvenating, can kind of help. If all you're doing all day, every day is studying and schoolwork, you're not going to stay motivated. So set aside time to socialize, whether that's a Zoom hangout with your friends or your family that you live with, and then making time to recharge and renew with something. I'm a big fan of exercise. I'm a big fan of getting outside because I think a lot of us are feeling like we're sitting in a room in front of a computer all the time, and no one's going to stay motivated doing that. That's no fun. So I think, still having a life outside of school, if you can, is key. And I feel for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. I saw someone had mentioned putting a timer. Say you have kids
Mhm.
or a family or roommates or whatever. Putting an outward timer so that they know you're counting down for an hour,
Yeah.
and they know that that's your focus time. You've
Mhm.
set that timer. They get to see it. You get to hear it. And when it goes off, you can check your social media. You can go out
Right.
and chat. Give yourself that freedom to
Yeah.
break away from studying for whatever period of time that looks like.
Yeah, I think
All
that's
of
a great
those.
idea. Yes,
Yeah, those are
absolutely.
great points.
Yep.
So, what tips do you have for fellow educators who may be tuning in to help students along these lines and processes?
Oh, I would say the biggest thing, and I've taken up several online classes. I would say the biggest thing that students are talking about, what they're not feeling like they're getting from their education right now, is communication may be lacking. I had a student reach out to
Yeah.
me because she was practically, I mean, I felt like she was in tears in her email. She couldn't reach anybody at her school at all.
Mm,
And she had a very valid question. I don't even remember what it was, but it was pretty distressing that she couldn't reach anyone. So I would say communication is absolutely key. Even over communicating expectations, how to do things, how to reach me. I would say if you're not having regular office hours, have regular office hours and have them maybe way more often than you normally would, so that students can reach out. And then the other thing I would say is try to make your content as meaningful as you would if they were coming to class. Again, that feeling that students are having that they're having to teach themselves, or that the
mm,
professor is simply putting out a PowerPoint without any context behind it. That's not a very helpful way to learn. So if you can do video and talk them through the presentation, that's going to work 100 times better than just putting up slides with no content. And I know it's hard for educators right now, especially if
yeah.
you're used to teaching in person and now all of a sudden you've got to transition everything to an online platform. I know how hard
Right.
it is to put together an awesome presentation, and I feel for you, really, really do. But those are
Yeah.
the main things.
Absolutely. I think everybody is in this huge transition together and just giving each other some slack and giving each other grace upon
Great.
grace because
Yeah,
whew, it's a lot.
it
So
is.
you have a instructional course, if you will, that's called Crucial Concepts for Boot Camp. Can you tell us a little bit about what that entails and how that's helping students?
Yeah, so Crucial Concepts Bootcamp is a course that I created, I think it was last year. So it's been through three enrollment periods, three classes, I guess.
Okay.
And if you remember back to your nursing school days, Chelsea, when you were brand new, though, that first month was absolutely insanity.
Yeah.
There's a lot of content that the professors are throwing at you. There's a lot of things that might be mentioned but aren't really dove into because they've got another much bigger job of teaching you the actual material. But there's all these other things that if you know them and know how to do them, you're going to be a much more successful nursing student. So I thought, why not get their readiness to learn really amped up into that really heightened place so that when they start school, they're ready to go. So that's what this course does. So it takes students through 7 modules. They're all, let me see, the first one is called Talk Like a Nurse. So in that module, for instance, we go over medical abbreviations, medical terms that they're going to hear in clinicals, how to give end of shift report, which is something that even nurses of 20 years may not know how to do very well, how to call a doctor or call your nurse that you're precepting with when you have a concern, using that SBAR communication. So learning how to talk like a nurse. That's something that you're not going to maybe learn in class. You're going to learn on the job and in clinical, but if you can go in knowing all of this stuff ahead of time, awesome. Then there's another module on think like a nurse, and that goes into clinical judgment and critical thinking, which I think is probably that hardest hurdle for students to make, is to actually, and every nursing student is super bright. They didn't get into nursing school because they're any kind of a slacker, but it's a different kind of knowledge you have to be able, it's that application knowledge that you have to be able to do and assimilate data from about 20 different points and then decide on a course of action. So we talk about how to develop and grow your clinical judgment and your critical thinking skills. And then it goes on from there. There's dosage calculations, there's study methodologies, how to approach NCLEX style questions, how to approach your care plans, a whole number of things that I guarantee you every nursing educator wants you to know and maybe doesn't have a lot of time to spend on those things. They would love to if they could, but there's just so much for them to cover. So that's what this course does. It's self-paced. Start, you finish when you finish, and enrollment is open. I'm leaving it open for the rest of, what did I say? Today is Tuesday, right? So until Wednesday night at midnight. I'm going to leave it open for any tribe students who want to get into it. And then enrollment closes and opens again in July.
Okay. So what would you say? Would you say like first semester nurses,
First
nursing students?
It's generally geared towards that incoming student. I have had some students take it maybe between first and second, especially if they had a hard time or they struggled and they really feel like they missed out on learning these core things. Some of those students will take it as well. But for the most part, the students who are going to get the most out of it, it's that brand new student going into their program.
Awesome. That sounds like an amazing resource. I wish I would have had it.
I wish I'd had it too.
I know, right? So you run Straight A Nursing. How did that come about and what exactly is it?
Well, let's see. So Straight A Nursing started like, right about when I was graduating from nursing school. I had made all of these study guides and notes and all these resources. And I had been sharing them with my classmates. And I thought, well, I'm just going to put them on this website so that people can just go there and get them. Yeah. And then it just became a thing. It just grew. And then I started writing blog posts, kind of sporadically about things that I was learning as I was a new grad in the ICU. And as it blossomed. The podcast started because I was recording myself reading my notes and that's not on the podcast, you guys. The podcast is not that boring, but that's like got me going into this. Let's learn through listening to things. And so the whole thing just kind of grew organically out of me helping my classmates when I was in school and then getting out of school, loving everything I was learning so much and wanting to reach out and help other students.
That sounds amazing. It's like the best business ever. It accidentally grew up and voila, here we are.
It just happened.
It just happened and it's my passion and here we are. That's amazing. Yeah. I love that. So what do you say you're looking forward to most in your career?
Well, in the next few weeks, graduating from my master's program.
Yay! So proud of you. My goodness.
Well, knock on wood. I mean, I'm still waiting to hear, but let's be hopeful about that. And then I'm working on more courses for nursing students. I'm working on a pharmacology course because that's the other class that I think a lot of students have to kind of struggle through or maybe teach themselves. So I'm working on that. We're coming out with an app, hopefully by June. So that will be a huge, huge thing to help students study. And so just growing the website, growing all the things that we offer. That is about it. That's
awesome. That's so cool. So if you had one nursing hack that you wanted to share to close out our time together today, what would be your one nursing hack or nursing school hack that you think all students should participate in?
Okay, so the one thing, you guys, because I don't know about you, but I'm a list freak. I love lists. If I don't have a list, I feel incomplete. And this seems like such an obvious and easy idea, but I started doing this when I was in school, and it was the biggest, most awesome organizing tool I did. So I took every syllabus that I would get from my instructors, every single thing that I had to do for that semester, I put into a spreadsheet. Every single thing, every assignment, every discussion board post, every discussion board response, every quiz, every task, take this form to class on this day, everything, put it in a spreadsheet, sorted it by date, bam, huge to-do list for the whole semester. If you do that one thing, you will be mega more organized than anybody else in your nursing school program.
And to watch those get checked off.
Yes, check it off the mega list and it feels Amazing. I've got mine
Yes.
for graduate school. Where is it? It's right here. And I'm only taking the one class this semester. So it's really short, but there's only like a couple things left. I'm so excited.
That is celebratory right there when you get to cross off that last thing. That's so neat.
Yes.
All right, Maureen. Well, thank you for giving us your time today and all of your knowledge. And those of you that want to reach out to Maureen, I'm going to have all of the contact information, her website and her email address and all the good stuff in the notes here. So be sure you contact her and reach out.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. Good to be here.
You guys. Have a good day.
Okay. Bye.